So this is the presentation.
Yeah, great. This is a good view and looks nicely.
All right.
Excellent.
Yes. Dear ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I think we can start with the panel discussion today, and as we are running the hybrid conference, we also have a hybrid panel discussion. So today we will talk about sustainable development in smart cities, and smart islands as for a faster energy transition and democratization of public utilities. Maybe these public utilities should be better explained as the public companies or public services that are also available. Today we have here in a room with us Dr. and Professor Iva Kovačić from Vienna Technical University, and we have also Yin Van Van from Brno University of Technology in Czech Republic. We also have here 3 participants from online participation. We have our member of IC, Professor Alexander Zidanšek from Josef Stefan Institute, and we are very sorry that Professor Zidanšek got sick and he was not able to attend the conference with us, but he managed to recover, and hopefully he's with us this evening. And we also have Dr. Julian Wang for Pennsylvania State University in the United States, and Professor David Stasio Garcia from Sapienza University of Rome. Hello everyone, can you hear us? Hi.
Yes, good evening. Hi.
Okay, so now when we have a confirmation that this functions well, I would like to give word first to Professor Alexander Zidanšek, so we will have a short introduction from each of the panelists, and then we will open floor for discussion and to see how we are going. Today we saw that the importance of data and digitalization of use of ICT is very important, so I will give the word to Professor Zidanšek to just give us a short introduction, and then we will solve a few immediate questions, but after we get intervention from all the panelists, we can start discussion. Alexander, please.
Goran, many thanks for your kind introduction. In this contribution, I would like to focus on competence development related to smart settlements, and also I will present the expert system that we have developed. Actually, here this idea started a few years ago when there was a need both in companies and in university education to make education, the gaining of competencies, more effective and more efficient. So as competencies, we actually list those 8 key competencies for lifelong learning that European Parliament adopted 15 years ago, but there are also many other lists when you have different types of competencies related both to work in factories, to studies at university and high school, and sustainability. And the question is, how do you develop these competencies most efficiently? You know, for example, Paul Pilzer once said, those who learn new things the fastest, the future belongs to those who learn new things the fastest. So how do you learn new things the fastest and most efficient? So for that purpose, we actually started the so-called Competence Center for Factories of the Future and RESPA projects, which were independent of each other. The idea was that we had the first 6 factories, and then we had 50 factories in Slovenia, and they're doing a lot of training. So within our project, they actually had more than 2,500 persons involved in individual trainings. So we have a lot of data, and we said, let's use this for an expert system where an algorithm would help this responsible person in the factory. How do you select the best person for the training and the best training for the person? So how do you do that? The idea was, these are just some computer person plan of how you do it, but the main part is here in the algorithms. So it's about data, design, and testing. And we used 4 different algorithms which are kind of selecting which training is the best for the person. So this is like a diagram like this, which will tell you what is the relationship between the competencies, the workplaces, the trainings, the companies, the employees. And this is a little bit abstract. So you measure competencies on a scale from 0 to 100, but this picture actually gives you a nice example. So this is a person who is a managing director, and you see this purple is the importance of the competence, the yellow one is how much of this competence is required, and the green one is how much it is measured, which means if green is the best, then it's great. If green is not the best, then means there's a lack, and this lack is measured with the red and the blue, and the bigger the lack of competence, the more training you need. So basically for this manager, one would say he needs more training on automatization, on taking smart risk, and on industry insight. And now the next question is, which training will provide him the most information in the most efficient, most effective way, in the shortest period of time, with the least cost? And that's basically the question that we have. So the web-based application that we developed looks like this. You list the competencies, the workplaces, the employees, the trainings, and the analytics actually follows what this employee is doing over time. So for example, this is the time development. He got like some training here at this starting point, and then his competence of entrepreneurship was getting better, and you are measuring this in time. Yeah, I know this is a lot of subjective measurements, so it's not exactly the real science. You know, the measurements with real testing is more difficult because it takes time and it costs. But with subjective measurements, the employee actually evaluates himself, and the other person are evaluating him, and his supervisor is evaluating him. So you get a lot of data, and then from all this data, you're doing some nice graphs, and the important input is that this expert system is telling you, is giving you advice on which training to select. So we have actually at the moment 4 algorithms, so you get, usually most of the algorithms give you the same advice, but if they give you different advice, then the responsible person selects which one to do. So in short, this was really a short introduction. What I wanted to show is that this expert system is useful to select the most valuable training, to improve knowledge and skills that are necessary in smart settlements, so that they are really smart. You know, it's not enough to install the system. You only need to educate people to use the system in the most in the useful way, and in this way, such a system can contribute to sustainability and efficiently equip people with competencies. So thank you for the time for my short introduction, and I will continue more later.
Thank you, Alexander. Yes, we all can agree that it's really extremely important that we need to have people, technicians, engineers, and everyone who are capable to install all of this equipment in our smart cities, villages, islands. We need to have people who can collect data, who can analyze data, who can interpret data, but also with help of IT or ICT, so we will need more competences. Are there any crucial questions now, if someone has something that should be answered immediately? No? Then we will go to the second intervention, which is given by Professor Iva Kovačić, because we will now hear what is going on in Vienna, and how these data are collected, and what can be done on the city level. So Iva, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So what I will try to just briefly outline today is, first of all, the notion of city of Vienna as a smart city, because Vienna is one of European cities that is partaking in a smart city program. It's been funded by European Union, and there are several other cities with which Vienna is collaborating. And within this concept of smart city, very strong emphasis is on circular city, and the topic of circularity is one of the topics that my research department has very strong emphasis on working on. So this is the aspect of sustainability that we are researching, and of course with support of digital technologies. So basically I will talk today about digital urban mining cadastre as an instrument for a smart city and achievement of a smart city. First of all, regarding the smart city of Vienna, what does Viennese government or Vienna as a city define as important milestones for achievement of a smart city? That would be quality of life, of course, the efficient use of resources and innovation. And regarding quality of life, I guess most of you are familiar that city of Vienna has been ranked always in the top 10 of the most livable cities worldwide. So it's always between place 1 and 3, which is very good. And I must say we're quite proud of to have such livable and high quality life city. The second thing that's really important is resources. And these are very ambitious aims in terms of reduction of energy consumption per capita, of CO2, and of course, and this is quite novel, of a reduction of material footprints per capita, and this is 30% by 2030 and 50% by 2050. And regarding innovation, Vienna wants to be innovation leader and to become Europe's digitalization capital. And this is also a very, very ambitious aim. And of course, City of Vienna is providing various platforms and various incentives in order to enhance that. So when talking about digital platforms for urban mining and resources efficiency in the city, here, of course, buildings and building stocks play a crucial role. So the buildings and infrastructures are representing the largest material stock of industrial economies. They are also bound, of course, not only indirectly to the energy, so-called embodied energy, which is the energy embodied in materials that is needed for the production of materials, building elements, but also, of course, the needed maintenance and, of course, disposal at the end of the life. So we talk about embodied energy here and, of course, related CO2 footprint to the materials or building elements. So in order to minimize the use of primary resources, the greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption for production of new materials, but also for disposal of old materials, the so-called urban mining strategy uses the existing building stocks as primary material resources in the future. However, we have no idea what do we have in the building stocks. So our knowledge on existing building stocks is very scarce, and we need a detailed knowledge in order to be able to model and predict the upcoming materials flows in the future. This is the first thing. The second thing is, of course, we need new methods for assessment and modeling and prediction of upcoming material flows in the future. First of all, how to assess the data, how to get the knowledge, what is embodied in our buildings, what materials are buildings consisting of, and of course mortality rates and when these materials will be available on the market. And of course, we need new business models for investors, for owners, and for portfolio managers, because in the future, you will not only own building in the sense of property, but you will be also the owner of all of the materials that you own, and you will be able to trade them on some kind of material stock market in the future. So we need new business models in order to deal with this new notion. So in general, what we talk about is in order to create such a digital platform for circular economy that would enable such new models for investors, stock portfolio owners, etc. First of all, we need a material documentation of new construction and existing stocks. In Austria, I must say we have very low new construction rate comparing to Asia, for example. It's 2%. And the rate of 2% of new construction is quite similar for all of the Europe. So the game that we are playing is in existing stocks in Europe. In Asian context, this is quite different, but in Europe, we really need to know our existing stocks in order to be able to predict what the future brings in terms of materials that we will have to use from the existing stock. So we have developed, Dr. Honisch has developed in her dissertation thesis a special methodology for BIM-supported material passport, building information modeling supported generation of material passports. And in this way, we use digital twins as documentation of material composition of a building, which is functioning quite well for new construction. However, for existing stocks, you need additional new technologies, how to assess what is incorporated in the building. And finally, once you know that, we will create a special digital material cadastre on the level of the city of Vienna to be able to predict future material flows of the city of Vienna. This is a number of the projects that are continuing one upon each other. Like I said, in the first project, we have developed the material passports that are BIM supported. So from digital twins, we can actually automatically generate the material passports, the knowledge, what's incorporated in the buildings. In the second project, scanning and data capturing for integrated resources and energy assessment, we have used coupling of energy assessment with material assessment in order actually to validate the energy modeling and energy consumption and couple it with material assessment. And here we have also used, this is regarding the data management and the users, the concept of gamification in order to work with users to assess the energy consumption and also the changes in the building. In BIM stocks, we are moving from single building to the whole stock of the city of Vienna. As you all know, European cities are quite old, so we have a lot of historical buildings. We have numerous very different constructions according to the age of building. And of course, in order to predict the upcoming materials, you really need to know the age categories and the materials that are connecting to specific ages of building and to upscale this model in order to be able to predict. In order to assess the existing buildings, we're using new technology of ground penetrating radar that we actually use to scan the buildings in terms of materials. This is quite a novel technology that is still connected to numerous challenges, to put it mildly, but this is something that we are working on very intensively. And finally, of course, all of the scanning, either of geometry or of material results with huge point cloud-based data. Point clouds are very big and hard to handle, so our partners from computer science are working on very efficient algorithms how to deal with point clouds and also how to develop BIM models directly from those point clouds. Right, and finally, in our newest project, this cycle, we actually develop new business models that would be based on smart contracts or on blockchain technology that would enable in building owners, portfolio owners, to actually trace the materials on the stock market and actually trade the materials in the future when the building has reached the end of the life. To provide them possibility for new business models dealing with their materials. So this was very shortly how the data looks like. Here you can see a scan of building materials. Here you can see a laser scan of geometry. Of course, in order to get a complete digital twin, you need to match this data. So we talk here about the data of various qualities, very heterogeneous data. And of course, you need a lot of supporting algorithms in order to be able to create a full digital twin. Right, what is already possible with the research that we have conducted? So BIM-supported material passports are already possible to generate them in various stages of a life cycle of a building. You can use it either in the early design stages for the optimization of building design or in later design stages for the exact documentation of materials incorporated in the building. And the future outlook is, of course, to create a whole ecosystem for circular economy. We have numerous players here. We have, of course, material production companies, manufacturers, a lot of industry. We have a lot of regulators here, of course, regarding the LCA assessment of all of the materials. We have planners, architects, designers, and finally users. And through taxonomy, we really hope that this new approach will be more accepted by investors, and actually that taxonomy will be a big impetus for more resources efficiency in construction. Then, of course, digital material cadastre should be embedded in GIS, in Geographical Information System database by City of Vienna, so that you would be able really, as a citizen, to have this digital cadastre and to see which materials you have exactly where in the city connected to each building. Of course, the point cloud to BIM is still a big challenge, and prediction of material composition through machine learning. And finally, of course, the integration of blockchain and digital twins for smart asset lifecycle management. So all of this is not only future, it is actually partially already reality in the city of Vienna. Currently, the city of Vienna, in framework of Smart City, is working on BIM-based digital building permit. So the designers, planners, architects, and construction companies will be able actually to submit a BIM model in a digital submission process. And this permitting process will be supported through artificial intelligence and augmented reality. So the authorities will be able to position the submitted models in space and to confirm if the models are according to regulation, spatial planning. And of course, through artificial intelligence, there will be automated building code checking. So the hope is that the permit process will be much faster, much more accurate, and the designers actually will get automated feedback what needs to be improved before even submitting it. So in advance to submitting, there will be this automated code checking with which the planners will get immediate feedback on the planning documentation, meaning BIM model. And finally, this is a very complex slide that I would like to show of City of Vienna. It's a strategy and plan for a circular city. So as you can see here, this slide reflects these numerous players who are inside of this circularity model. And as drivers of change, of course, digitalization, BIM, big data, and Internet of Things are seen in order to connect manufacturing, design, construction, and finally investors to realize the circular city. So that would be in very brief and short topic, resources efficiency for Smart City of Vienna.
Thank you, Eva. Are there some questions for Professor Krajačić? No. Alexander, are you still with us? Maybe. Yes. Now you saw there are so many of these new competences needed here also in a smart city.
This is really interesting. Yes. From ground penetrating radar to big data to artificial intelligence, everything is needed.
Yeah, digital twins and all other things. Yeah. So yes. This will be quite challenging to provide all of this to our cities, but we are glad that we can learn from some of the cities that are in front. Okay. Any questions from panelists for Professor Krajačić? Okay, we then can move on to Professor Wang in United States. Professor Wang will tell us a little bit more. Now we heard what is needed on the level of the city. Now we are going to the level of the building, on the many of the sensors indoor, outdoor, in the windows, in facades, etc. So, Dr. Wang, please, could you give us a short introduction to your research and to your panel description?
Sure. All right. Thanks. All right, let me share my screen. All right, so I think our research is more about, so I will focus on the building scale and talk about some of our research works from the personalized interaction perspective, how each person interact with the indoor thermal and visual qualities, and how that could be part of the scope of smart buildings. So as we know, the smart building concept, we can see that there are three basic components there. The human, or we can call that occupants, they are one major element there. So we have to, the smart building concept or paradigm should be designed for human-centered. And the second one is the physical. From physical perspective, which is not only about the building structures. It also related to the systems like lighting, heating, cooling, and a window system, blind system. So those are the physical elements in this concept. And to link these two things or these two categories together, we can call the interaction, or more popular term is the cyber-physical systems. So those are integrations of a computation and the physical processes. Some embedded computational computer or sensing technologies, monitor technologies, and network control, they can make the physical processes, usually with a feedback loop from the user, from human to physical, and back from physical to human. So that's the structure about smart building, or the major elements in this concept. And actually, the smart building in our current, in many newly constructed buildings, they already have this kind of building automation systems, like the automated blinds or some occupants and sensor. They can understand people in, people out to adjust the building heating, cooling, lighting systems. And all these things can impact the overall. Here is the key factors we thought smart building concept can contribute. Like they can contribute to the energy savings and energy efficiency of the building. For instance, just a quick number, from the United States, we report about 15 to 20% energy savings, annual energy savings by addressing common sources of energy waste for unoccupied space. So that's just one simple energy waste element. But for each individual people, that could be more complicated. For some people, that could be overheating. For some people, maybe perfect. So that will give us more complicated scope, or give us more challenges, opportunities for smarter building. And not only energy, but also contribute to user, is influencing user comfort, working efficiency, productivity, and general environmental impact. And of course, utility cost and some investment for the buildings. And also, if the sensor monitors understand the macro grade and also the general city grade, they can enhance the grid stability and the reliability, and also the building operation. So if we look at the occupant focused or individual focused into this scope, we can find the hypothesis that, the reason we have this now is, the personalized building paradigm or building control paradigm is rooted in the concept that general or generic or global models, they don't fit all scenarios and usually represent just the average view of a group of people. So not for individual. So one of the trends in smart building is to find out the personalized interaction. What is the preference for each person? And then the building system can be finely tuned to support the individual responses. So this is also related to the inter and intra-individual differences. The inter means you and me are different. We have different preference about temperature or lighting conditions. And intra-individual differences we also need to consider, because people may evolve, may have different responses under different situations. So if I have activities, I may need different temperature or lighting conditions. On the contrary, if another person just always in the rest of the situation or working in the working station, always in the same activity levels, there is another set of environmental settings that should be designed for that individual. So inter and intra-individual differences should be considered in this occupant-focused or individual-focused paradigm. And from another perspective is, once we understand individual feeling or individual response, we need to bring the occupants into the smart building control loop. To bring that into the loop, we need to understand the personalized predict. We need to have the personalized predict models. because we need to predict what kind of a response this person sitting or standing in this environment, what kind of feedback he or she has. And to achieve that, we also need real-time sensing and monitoring technologies to understand the micro-environmental conditions and also these people's behavior, activity, and those things. So, and when I mention the sensing or monitoring technology, which is not only about the wearable technologies for human body, now we have lots of different sensors we can put on, but also related to the building, the outdoor environment, like urban environment, what happened outside, what's the climate conditions, what climate conditions are outside now, and what opportunities we will have in next hour, something like that. And also the air quality, the indoor air motion, the indoor heating, indoor temperature, those things. So the sensor and monitoring technology should cover the overall scope. So in our own study to respond to this direction, so first one, we try to understand for each individual how different, and is that possible we can set up individualized model. So this is just one example on thermal. So I think it's in general sense, we understand that different people may have different temperature requirements, but how we can build the individual model for the smart building to use. This is an example we did. We got sponsored from United States Environmental Protection Agency, working on wearable sensor, using wearable sensor to understand, to read the real-time psychological data, and also just the macro environmental data. So we also have some environmental sensors, portable wearable environmental sensors, lighting, heating, cooling, temperature, humidity, those information, and uploading all of this information to the cloud. And at the same time, with the real time, we do some processing and send the feedback to the users by using a specific designed smartphone app. So the users can give us real-time input about their comfort situations. They feel good, they feel cold, they feel hot, they feel good. The goal for us is to find the boundary for each person. What is the boundary temperature and the humidity parameters for each person? But of course, if we have multiple persons and we need to link to like the previous panelist discussion about building information modeling, because building information modeling has all information about the vent placements, where the vents, where the fans. So if we know the positions about building systems and the individual person's location, even we have multiple persons, we can using some algorithms to give like weighting functions or something to give optimal settings for the different persons. But we need to understand each person's.
Do we have a feedback from technicians? No. Okay. Okay, so we need to continue without Dr. Wang for a second, but I think we got in general in the first part of his description what is now the let's say the challenges in this modeling of the buildings and all of occupants in it. So maybe if we get back to Dr. Wang, I would like to ask him if half of us here in this room are feeling too hot and half is too cold, how we should adjust the temperature, maybe democratically, or there is a more advanced way. As we heard now, artificial intelligence will help us. Okay, until we find out how we can reconnect to United States, I think we will go for the next presenter, and it will be Dr. Wan Fan, who will get us back to the system level and maybe to more important modeling and use of these smart things and ICT in the waste management, which should be quite advanced, but also we should find out how we can reduce energy consumption in smart cities, smart islands, and also what technologies make us smart. So.
Good evening. I'm Ivan Fan. Based on today's panel topic, I would like to give a short introduction focused on the challenges, or I would say the potential setback in the developments of smart city and smart island. So I will start with the advantages. The advantages of smart technology utilizations is generally known, and it has been discussed and mentioned by the previous speakers. It serves as a tool to conserve and also to reduce the unnecessary wastage and improve the management efficiency. One of the examples is the smart mobility. I think Vienna is doing quite good in terms of this, in terms of smart mobility, and it usually includes the various transportation modes. For example, ride sharing is one of the use of smart technology. For example, Uber. And another one is the logistic drones. Other than that, smart care is also another cases or example which is close to our daily life. E-health is one of the common developments, and also the COVID pass, the EU digital COVID pass, which we are currently using it for traveling. However, the smart technology does not bring only the advantages. There are also some potential setbacks in this kind of developments. So I will start with the arguments which exist in the waste management and generation sectors, because this is what my research interests in. So on one hand, the waste management, the smart technology facilitates the data-driven decision making. For example, it facilitates the route planning, the waste truck tracking, waste level monitoring, manhole monitoring, and also the point collection system for recycling. But these kind of smart devices are also subjected to more law, where the processing power is actually double every year. It also reflects that we might have a lot of e-waste due to the greater advancements. We are changing those devices because we have devices with a better efficiency. And it also increases the resources consumptions. And although we are trying to do a lot of recycling, but all the recycling process are having the environmental footprints in all those processes. So it is important for us to recognize this problem so that we can maximize the benefits of smart technology. Another challenge is related to the higher demand or the unnecessary usage associated with the improvement contributed by the smart management. So in other words, it's the rebound effect. Rebound effect is a reduction in expected gain from the new technologies that increase the efficiency of resources used, mainly because of the behavioral or other systematic responses. So by referring to this figure, this is one of the typical examples that assessing the relative change in global data center energy use. So the efficiency in the data center is actually improved, but at the same time, the service demand is also increasing. So when we are expecting the energy reduction in the energy consumptions, it doesn't happen as what we expected. mainly because the increase in the service demand is more significant, and it is offsetting the expected gain. Another example is also happen in the waste management sectors. We are actually increasing the waste recycling rate, so we are expecting that the environmental footprints should be lower, but at the same time, the waste is also increasing. So, as I mentioned, there is a footprint associated with the recycling process. When we have more waste generated, the expected gain from the recycling is actually reduced. So this is also one of the examples of rebound effect. Last but not least is the security issues, and one of the recent examples is the Colonial Pipeline incident, where it is attacked by the ransomware and causing panic and raising to stock up on the gasoline. So the smart technology enhance the monitoring and also the system to operate more efficiently, but it also creates potential cyber security risks. So based on the mentioned potential drawback, it leads to the discussions of, is smart technology environmentally sustainable? Especially when we are considering a wider and broader system boundary in our assessments. Another question is, would smart city and smart island reduce energy consumptions, and is it economically sustainable? As I mentioned, the energy efficiency is improved, but at the same time, the demand is also increasing quite significantly. And at some point, those are not necessary usage. And the last one is smart technology making us smart or dumb? So this is one of the questions that I saw it online, and I find that is quite interesting, so I would like to bring it over here. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Van Van. Are there answers on those questions that you asked? Maybe there are someone from audience who knows to answer. Okay.
I don't have the answers, but I have one more question. So we are talking about smart cities, smart islands, which means exchange of lots of information, lots of data. So how is the development of smart city and smart islands connected to the development of 5G network? That's my question.
Okay, the question is like, how the smart city and smart island connected to the 5G?
Yeah, how is the development of, is it a necessity development of 5G network to develop smart cities and smart islands? Is it a preliminary condition?
Okay, so because I'm not too familiar with 5G, but I am expecting that like 5G are promoting those Internet of Things, and also to ensure that all the systems are interconnected. So by having this, maybe we can gather more information and data for any data-driven strategy. I'm not sure whether I'm answering the questions, or maybe the other speakers are having the answer. Yeah.
Maybe Alexander knows more, because he's also mentioning 6G. So it's yeah. And, Alexander, are you with us? Yeah. Okay. We have.
Yes, it's an interesting question. We have actually more questions than answers. And this 6G will be in 5-6 years important. It will go in frequencies very high, like 100 gigahertz, and it will transmit data much faster, which means that we are going to have even more data. So that means that artificial intelligence, big data, to process all that will be even more important. So what we can say is that competencies in 10 years are going to be much different than they are today, and we are going to need more knowledge, more creativity, and a lot of things we cannot predict. But we know that there will be more data, more algorithms, and faster connectivity, which of course also brings new possibilities which are limited more or less only by our imagination.
Thank you. Professor
Okay.
Krajačić, yeah.
I consider the major issue is security. We are talking about pluses, about a rosy future, but if you look through media, US elections were triggered. I don't know if it's the true, but media are full of this. You know, many things in the most advanced IT country, US, were actually hacked. And if we look on smart cities, in the previous military conflicts, you needed to bomb and destroy the city. Nowadays, you don't need. You can smart city hack and take over. And you can totally destroy it. No, because you can stop supply of power. You can stop supply of water. You can stop e-mobility, everything. So it's good when we are painting the very nice future, but on the other hand, security, security, security. And before it is sorted out, and it will be enormous struggle in the future, smart cities are too dangerous.
Okay, thank you, Professor Klemes. Any comment of these security issues? We might agree that cybersecurity is really crucial for operation of our smart cities and systems. But okay, Professor Dujic. And
well, maybe a comment on Jirzi's comment. If we go to distributed grids, it's actually more secure. The whole concept of internet with its TCP/IP protocol, which is distributed, was because of security. Now we have to make energy systems and other systems secure so they could reconfigure on any necessary level. I mean, nuclear power plant, it's so easy to bomb today with two drones. You just get rid of the network and diesel generators and you have a boom. But with solar panels, it's much more difficult.
okay. Peter, you asked for the...
Yeah, thanks very much. Maybe it's easier to speak. And I would like to pick where Ivan actually posed a few questions. It's fine to use the technology, but we should start from the function, I believe. All these 5G, Internet of Things, fine, but what are they doing? This is more important. We can't start from the tool, we should start from the function. So for me, for example, if we talk about, say, blockchain, blockchain is about accountability. If you talk about Internet of Things, it can only serve, or mostly serve, coordination function. Okay, various devices linked with each other acting in concert. So this adds to the security. There are parallel issues. Security is obviously prime, because if you don't have your network secured, no matter how distributed it is, with all these smart technologies, you can still get a concerted attack. Actually, one of the paradigms, military paradigms, how to overcome the enemies is exactly this, having multiple small strikes to tie up the enemy, to make them powerless.
Okay, maybe we are going too much to this enemy bombing, attacking, overtaking, hacking, but let's, today we learned that the smart means integration, smart means lots of other things, so I think smart also means the more secure. So let's have this comment and then we will go to the smart islands just to see how they cope with the issues that we are pointing out. Okay? Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for interesting knowledge which you share. I am from Iran and the place that I live, the history is for about more than 7,000 years. So we have still some buildings which it's belong to more than 2,500 years. And when I see my area, the buildings until 100 years ago, or even earlier, I mean nearer to this time, it was from the materials which was on that place. For example, the area which I live, now it's one of the hottest city in the world. I was living in, I mean. And nowadays, because of asphalt and the way of energy we consume and the way of building we build, it's, in summer, sometimes it's reached to 60 degrees. However, during my parents' time, they say they lived there without any air condition. So the weather temperature in summer, it was about 40 degrees. And without any problem, they live. So back to Dr. Ivan's question, I think we need a smart people to have a smart city. We change our buildings, the materials we build, we change our roads, we change our style, the style of our living, and now with technology we want to try to solve it. However, we have to back and use this 7,000 years history, not only this 100 or lesser than 100 years that we think we become smarter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is a nice concept. Maybe Eva, you want to comment or?
Regarding the history and learning from history and traditional ways of building, I'm with you, but also we have numerous challenges such as climate change and also thermal comfort. Of course, we produce a lot of waste heat through use of all of possible appliances, devices that we are using, so the living conditions have changed drastically. Also, life expectancy has changed in the last 7,000 years. So the way of living has really changed drastically, and thereby, as nice the traditional building is, and the traditional materials and use of traditional materials, you can learn a lot of it. But of course, you need new answers to new challenges. The trouble, for example, with very short-lived technology, all of the sensors, you need buildings that will be able to adapt to new technology and also to be able to be reinstalled constantly. And nowadays the buildings are not really designed in this way, and this is why we have these very fast mortality rates of modern buildings, because they become very soon obsolete because they do not correspond to this very short-lived technology. This is things that you've been saying, the rebound effects. So these are really big challenges. And another thing that I really think smart city sustainability is less a matter of smartness, but it's a matter of us as citizens or as people to determine the measure of sufficiency. At some point you have to be able to sacrifice something or of your lifestyle, because only through technology it will not be enough. I'm really convinced about that. So it's a matter of sufficiency, and this is something that community, scientific community, as well as, let's say, public at large, is not ready to discuss yet. So this is why I'm not such an optimist regarding the whole development in the matter of sustainability, because we are also, you know, your parents and the generations before, they were much more sufficient than we are today, and there is a limit to growth. I'm absolutely convinced about that.
Thank you, Eva, for this intervention. If we are talking about self-sufficiency, I think now it's the best way to transfer to our last but not least speaker, David, because he's speaking about islands and smart islands, and we know that in history islands were self-sufficient and maybe provided also resources to some other regions. But now how or can they be self-sufficient in the new age in 21st century? I think we will hear more about from David and
yes. When I say sufficient, sufficient does not mean self-sufficient. So sufficient just means that you have to satisfy with a certain limit of having of something. So self-sufficient might work in some areas, but in urban context, self-sufficiency is not really a feasible solution. So
yeah,
I'd just like to
okay, but we know that islands were self-sufficient before. Okay, so okay, thanks.
Okay, so thank you, Goran, for inviting me. And yes, I'm trying to give you some details about what we did and what we are currently doing in some EU research projects, trying to join the marine renewables and the digitalization strategies that can help the islands, smart islands, to foster their energy transition. So we all know that the digitalization and then also the energy transition, but mainly the renewables of the blue energy is one of the key pillars for the islands, starting from the next generation EU funds. For example, in the Italian funds have been tailored significantly to these two technologies also, with particular aspect to the marine renewables and to smart island, smart and small and big islands digitalization. So my preliminary consideration were about the possibility of offshore wind renewables in the Mediterranean that is increasing so much in the last years, thanks of course mainly to the floating platform technologies. In Italy, as example, I just discussed it a couple of weeks ago with the head of connection of the Italian TSO, Terna, and he said that he received more than 17,000 megawatt of authorization requests coming from marine wind offshore. And for example, the Italian National Energy and Climate Plan foreseen only 900 megawatt. So we are speaking about two different orders of power capacity in our seas. These are a couple of examples with some societies we are in contact with. One in the western coast of the Sicily Island of Seven Seas Med, 250 megawatt, 35 kilometers from the Sicily Island. And another one is always in the west part of Sardinia Island, Cnusa Wind Project. And the bigger one is a project already ongoing by Venezia in 60 kilometers in the Sicily Channel. It includes 190 wind turbines, almost 15 megawatt each, so a total power of 2.79 gigawatt. That means with the producibility assessed in terms of more or less 3,000 hours equivalent per year, it means 8,400 gigawatt hours per year. So it means a very, very interesting producibility for big islands in this case, but also for the decarbonization of the inland. A study we conducted also with Sorokin about another island, Sardinia, in terms of self-sufficiency coming from offshore wind, pinpointed that using only the 25% of the available areas farthest than 20 kilometers from the shoreline, so it means with a very low landscaping impact, we can install 700 wind turbines in 10 years, 14 megawatt each. So with a plan of 10 years, we can install a total capacity, a total power of almost 10 gigawatt. It means an electricity production of more than 30 kilowatt hour per year. That is almost 3 times the electric needs of the Sardinia Island. and around the 10% of the Italian electric energy needs. In terms of economic benefits, this project will involve 1.8 billion euros per year. This is the 5% of the Sardinia gross domestic product, and also in terms of course, of new jobs, 10,000 in 10 years. We have now only 1,000 employees in Sardinia. Other 5,000 new jobs for operation and maintenance employees. So it means that we have rooms to do that. We have also the possibility with this new next generation EU funds. So starting from this preliminary consideration, we would like to present something integrating marine renewables and digitalization. We did it firstly with the first European project that is almost finished, it's still ongoing. We are involved, its name is Odysseus, and we developed a platform, a digital platform called Marinomica that is currently online, open access of course, including many different kinds of data on the Mediterranean basin, on historical data, forecasting data, every kind of data coming from remote sensing, in situ sensing, social sensing, to provide end users, to provide local and government administration, but also citizens and companies, every kind of possible integration of this data. Of course, we mainly worked on the marine renewables with some machine learning neural network for forecasting the wind energy production, but also the wave energy production. We just defined also the app for the mobile where you can download all the data. And going faster, a new project we have just funded. It's called Ilia. This is the subsequent project of Odysseus, and it will start next February. It has been funded by the last new Green Deal call from Horizon 2020 before Horizon Europe. And we are elaborating a digital twin of the whole Mediterranean basin, starting from the Marinomica data. So of course we continue working on the renewable energy issue, but working with so many other disciplines and kind of data. I think it's a good starting point for the future, for the island, but not only for the island. The last slides I will show you regards another H2020 project that is called GIFT, Geographical Island Flexibility. We are more or less in the middle of the project. And this is another project where digitalization and energy transition in small islands, in this case, can be tested using some virtual power systems, some enterprise service buses, trying to match energy production coming from renewable and energy needs, involving prosumers and flex agents in all the fields of the small islands. So we include, of course, electric vehicles, smart mobility, also maritime mobility, factories and storages, and so on. So in this, using this approach, we made a smart two pilot cases, one in the Mediterranean, here in Italy, in an island called Procida. This project started more or less with the PRISMI project, where we cooperated also with Zagreb University, and now we have another new project with you and SDEWES called PRISMI Plus. That's more or less involved similar topics, but without case studies like this. In this case, we had in Procida Smart Energy Hub that includes reversible electrolyzer fuel cell, hydrogen compression on long-term storage units, batteries, electric particles, and multi-energy energy management systems in order to match energy needs and the local on-site renewable energy production. The other case is in the north of Norway, in an island called Noya. So we are testing different solutions, different contests in order to try to make some replicable solution in other islands. In this case, we considered the maritime traffic with another island called Gritoia, and also some other flexible market in Noya Islands. So that's for giving you a very brief introduction of what is the integration about marine renewables and digitalization with particular regard to small and big islands. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David. Now we can wrap up these interventions, and there are some questions. Okay, so we have Dr. Wang back to the online, so it's easy to disappear in virtual world. It's not so easy to move here from the room. But Dr. Wang, okay, so we are glad that you are back with us. I don't know if you hear the other interventions, but
about this.
Yeah,
so my internet doesn't like the really long distance communication, so it became unstable. I don't have this issue before.
Okay, so maybe would you like to finish your presentation for this?
Okay, so yeah, just to have a few slides to finish. All right, okay. Yeah, you're seeing I'm trying to figure out what happened to the internet. Right, so I was talking about the personalized comfort model. So this is the one we did for thermal aspects. And we try to analyze which sensor or what kind of a feature for each person. For different person, how different, how important of the parameter. So for instance, for some people, lighting may be an important stimulator to change their feelings about indoor conditions. For some other people, lighting is okay, so they can accept a really dark light, or they are fine with those. So in this research, in this project, we try to using wearable sensor and put people into their actual living situations, living settings, so they can finish this project in their own living settings. Could be dormitory or could be residential single-family house. As long as they have all this system, our system can automatically detect the large variation about environmental conditions, and then trigger the message to ask the users to input their comfort situations. So we want to set up this model and then bring this model into the future smart building control systems. And more interestingly, some studies, some results from our own project, and also some other studies, other researchers, they work on this. They find some collective effects from indoor environmental parameters. So the indoor environment parameter is not playing the role by themselves. Is not purely by themselves. They also play with other parameters. So for instance, we know there is a very old hypothesis that when people see warm light, they feel a little bit warm. When they see blue light, they seem a little bit cold. So that is one example of the interaction between visual and the thermal. So when people seeing the different color temperature, different lighting, and that may trigger the thermal response to human brain, and then that may change the thermal response. So in other words, if in the smart building concepts, if we can tune the lighting system, we can control the thermal response. So for instance, if in the summer and winter, we change the lighting color temperature, change the lighting color, maybe we can widen the thermostat settings and then save some energy. And not only lighting and thermal, not only lighting and temperature, some other collective effects like the air quality and air motion compared with other things. So paired with other parameters, they may also produce collective effects. but some fundamental research works are needed. Our own group is also working on this light to heat conversion and how it happens in the human psychology. So we work with the psychologists and also some other investigators in other areas. So we definitely need some interdisciplinary perspective to understand these fundamental things. But we do think once we understand all the parameters, interaction, and collective effects, and we can bring the smart building control into another level. On the other side, on the building system perspective, our own group is also working on the smart glazing system, trying to design the window system to be dynamic and smarter, can be responsive to different solar radiation. So we understand in winter we want a solar infrared or solar heat. In summer we don't want. But for each individual, this solar infrared will also affect their thermal comforts through the windows because we receive some radiation, we feel some hot feelings. So we try to categorize all those things and try to work with the material scientists to design the smart materials, incorporate smart materials on building window materials so they can respond to the system. We are working on both passive and active fashions. So the passive fashions are more about material itself and the features, and the active fashion is something we use electronic things to control and modulate the window features, and including blinds. So some other projects we're also working on this perspective, like how we can control the dynamic, how we can control the building envelope properties to seasonally respond to the energy needs and also indoor occupancy needs. And also the in-situ measurements. So we try to work with the construction management investigators. So they use the rapid in-situ measurements. We also want to combine them, but bring more material perspective into the in-situ so they can measure the window properties and also the indoor air qualities into the final digital construction. So here is wrap up for the whole picture about the smart building for personalization in this direction. We thought that there are three major components from outdoor, indoor, and occupants. So for outdoor, of course we need some sensing technologies and predictive models to predict what happened the next hour or next day or next month. And also some computation algorithms. Not only the weather, we also want to understand what happened outside about urban environments. Like maybe there are some wind tunnels in the winds, higher wind speed in certain situations. So this is about outdoor. So the sensor can understand what happened outdoor, and then give the feedback to the central computation. And from the indoor perspective, we want to sense the indoor air quality and also the environmental conditions. Sensor and monitors will be embedded and to give the information. And also we want to always monitor the real-time monitor the building system situations like lighting, heating, cooling systems, how they're functioning in a different scenario, and also the envelope system like blinds, the facade systems. For the indoor central component is the occupants. The occupants, we are working on the personalized comfort and a macro-environmental sensing part. This is a part of our project. And to make this scope to be more complicated, we also need to understand the behavior, activities, and like culture, habits about individual. And of course, the indoor localization algorithm should be developed to understand the geometric relationship between each individual and heating, cooling systems, the geometric relationship between them. And to link all these things together, that's the cyber physical system linking and processing each component. Yeah, so that's pretty much. Thank you for my late response.
Thank you, Dr. Wang, for getting back to us and reconnect. So maybe you skipped the conversation on the security, but maybe we learned today for hybrid panel you need 2 internets or something like this, like to build a parallel internet, and then we can be sure that we will be connected. But you also maybe didn't hear the question from Dr. Wan Fan. She asked maybe all these smart cities and smart islands, or all these technologies are making us are they making us more smarter or dumber? So what do you think? Are we more dumb or we are smarter by using all these technologies? How do you think it will work?
For me, I think that this is a kind of the argument my colleague also asked. So they said we are designing some smart technologies but make people lazy and more just to stay at home and to all the system respond to the systems to the environments. But I think that there is still opportunity for human integration. So it's not only passively changing all the building systems. We also want a human to be involved in these control systems. So for instance, in our project, so people still are involved. We need them to understand their thermal comfort boundaries in this process. So I think it's still good to enhance the human recognition, but with this smart system, we can bring, more optimal or more sustainable solutions. So not the passive way, just the system to just the building system to the environment or behaviors. We want some interaction to enhance the human response, human recognition, human understandings to the environment. Yeah, because eventually, for the energy saving behaviors, those things are the key. Even though we can change the lighting color to control the thermostat, or we can automatically change the thermostat, but if the person turn off all the automatic things, all the system will be destroyed. Will be not working. So human intervention or human interaction will always be desirable in this smart building concept. That's my perspective.
Thank you. So Alexander, if you are still with us, how we can enhance this interaction of humans and technology, and is it more cultural or it will be more educational? So what do you think? How it will happen?
Your question is actually right on the mark. Cultural influences are actually the most important, because if it doesn't feel cool to young people, they're not going to use it. So they are growing up on the TikTok or whatever, Facebook is for old people. So if you really want young people to implement the technology, it has to be kind of culturally cool with them. It's even more important in education. Young people are actually growing up with this technology, so they already know it better than we do. But in order to be acceptable, so that this peer pressure, which is actually very important, has to actually function in the positive feedback. So this.
Oh, we lost. Can you hear us, Alexander?
I actually gave.
Okay.
I presented my point.
I think we have a problem with connection, but we don't know on which side. So, as I said, maybe we need 2 internets or at least 2 connections per each participant, just to be sure that we will not have this kind of problems. Okay, so I think Alexander mentioned here a new way of education. It's TikTok. Maybe the new SDEWES conferences in 10 years will be organized in a TikTok way and presentation. I don't know, do you have experience in organizing TikTok presentation? Maybe, Ingo, you were in educational part and you have a nice, let's say, ways how to motivate students to listen to you. Are you maybe preparing some TikTok lectures, or can be done or not? Okay. Alexander, are you back? Just checking.
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Wonderful. So this is one part. The other part is, of course, education, where you need to implement in basic education also concepts like artificial intelligence, quantum technologies, and all these interesting protocols that we talked about earlier, like blockchain protocols to make our systems more secure. And if young people learn this, then we have a good future. That's my main point. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a question from audience online? No? Maybe Eva? No, there are no questions online, so we checked. Maybe Eva, you can tell us now how the city of Vienna is prepared for this education, or I know you are developing, you are working on all of these projects, but so are they just disseminating the knowledge, or you are going also to the educational part and maybe from, let's say, all levels of education, from kindergarten to maybe lifelong learning or something like this?
So basically what the city of Vienna and the representatives of all possible chambers of engineers and architects and other associations like that are expecting us as university to be much more agile and to correspond to these new needs. However, I must say, as a quite old school, as all of your schools probably, or most of your schools with very fixed teaching programs, it's very hard to change, let's put it this way. And I don't think that we are fast enough in educational programs to embed new technologies and digitalization. So we are lagging behind, we know that, and of course you have here this trying to bridge the traditional engineering schools, the traditions of engineering schools, which are very, very strong in fundamental teaching, and of course the new requirements of highly digitized world where you need new competencies and new skills. And we are still struggling to meet these new demands, let's put it this way. And of course, more modern faculties like computer science, of course, are more free to react. But of course, more traditional engineering schools, such as faculty of civil engineering, mechanical engineering, are of course still caught in very traditional ways. And as our master programs are burdened with numerous classes that you're obliged to take in order to get the ECTS, it's very hard to find space for new subjects. And this is really a big problem that we will have to face in the future. How to embed new master programs and how to embed new topics in this very traditional curricula. I must say the traditional curricula are good. They also have their qualities. But of course, we have to embed the new topics as well. And this is challenging.
Thank you. And maybe Dr. Wang, do you have some kind of examples, or can we use this building human interaction to use it also in educational purposes? Or maybe you're already providing this if your building is, if you demand more, let's say, higher temperatures, maybe building can say, now you will produce more CO2 or your footprint will rise, etc. So immediately will maybe impact you, or can we use it for educational purposes, etc. So.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, yeah. I really like this discussion about the education, how to inspire and educate not only students but also public ways. We actually did in the past 2 years trying to work with the local community. The two directions. One direction is we try to assemble some sensors and share that in the local community. So they have a center, community center. Everyone can grab that and come back to make some in-situ measurements about their windows, envelopes. So they may find, and they will bring the data back, and we will let them know what kind of situations about your building envelope is. So for instance, if you upgrade some building windows, how much energy you can save. And if you change to this, the new HVAC or air conditioning thermostat, how much energy you could save. So all this information we will provide based on the data they made. They make some measurements and then gave us, and we can give some feedback. That's one direction. We did that in the last 2 summers, working with the college students and also local community, try to work with them. And also another track in the education, in the university education, I really want to echo the point. The current the curriculum in our university, like Penn State University, it's still really traditional. Like for instance, they are talking about heat transfer. They never talk about, not never. So the nano scale or the macro scale things is still not part of the situation, the current curriculum. For the architecture, it's the same. The building system now is become with lots of new technologies, but we are still teaching very fundamental things, which is fine. In the master program, we have more flexibilities, more flexible space. We can incorporate this kind of knowledge, the modules into the courses. For instance, like current in our university, for the construction and also the architecture engineering, for students to understand indoor environment and the potential performance of building systems. We try to design the platform using VR, AR system, so they can bring the AR system into the building, the building past the bed, and then understand if they change this virtual window and what kind of energy saving they can achieve. And meanwhile, the surrounding radiator can give them feeling about a real world radiation, so they can feel both visual from the AR and also the heating generation from the local radiator. But meanwhile, it's in the real building, so they will have more. I mean, it's a higher impact for them. For the learning outcomes will be better compared with the pure number and the text. So I think that basic 2 tracks we're working on. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems interesting to involve all this new technology in our education. So we need to do that. But maybe Dr. Wanfan, can we, by using this education technology, can reduce this rebound effect? Because maybe it's more educational to, provide people that maybe they don't need so many things or these services, or should be satisfied with less, or I'm not sure, but maybe you have some examples of this.
Yeah, actually, in my opinions, most of the potential setback in the development of smart technology lies at the social aspect. This is the perspective that we need to take into account in with all the developments. Like, we are very much focused on improving the efficiencies and improving the technology, but we also need to consider how those improvements will impact the social aspect. Because, for example, the rebound effect, it's also the social issues. Like, when it is very convenient, we tend to waste and not appreciating the resources that we are having. So this is the main issue that I think we should take into account in developing, in parallel with the developments of smart technologies. Yes, and I believe by educations, it will help quite a lot.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, but these social impacts and society, it's maybe the hardest to evaluate. I don't know what you think as a panelist or the audience, how we can, we saw now that in the building, on the building level, we could measure some things, but on the level of the city or the, let's say, island, or how we can evaluate this social, I think this is quite interesting for me. Are there any of comments on that? Okay, yes, better.
A little bit different aspect. First, I would like to go back to the original topic you set up for the panel, democratization of the public utilities. Well, democratization, what would it mean? As I perceive it, it means that people who are served should have some say and some influence on the system. So if you mean that, we can carry on further with the discussion, but I'm assuming you mean that. So in that case, if you align this question with what Jiří put forward as the security, it really comes together and points to a very specific direction. Centralization versus distribution, one aspect, and second aspect, who is holding the degrees of freedom in their hands.
Yes, thank you, Peter, for this excellent intervention. We needed a little bit going back to the track because we need to see how we can share of these things and how this technology will enable us to make people more aware and more participate in other things and decisions that are important for the city, etc. So this is something that we should be able to answer. Maybe, David, what do you think on the level of the island and these projects that you're running, are there now incentives to democratize the, let's say, energy production, energy use? We know that this is common in Danish islands, so how is it solved in your projects, or will you enable in your smart energy hub how the local population will be involved in this? Can you comment and maybe also try to answer the Peter's question?
Yeah, I think one real possibility is the smart energy communities, the energy communities at the island levels or positive energy district levels in terms of sharing production and consumption of electricity locally, so microgeneration, for example, and with the new opportunities of the RED II directives, the European directive we are now achieving in Italy. I think we are starting with some real energy community at island levels. We have seen something in a couple of islands, and I think in there it's the involvement of the citizens, of the society at the all level. It's crucial for its success. Also, we had some example also with another project where we are involved also with you called the Genesis. That's also including the island, the education of younger people for the so-called green job. So in order to help them to find new possibilities of works, new jobs, new interaction for the digitalization and the transition, the sustainable transition of these territories. So I think these two aspects, mainly the energy communities, the involvement of prosumers, and also the knowledge of the younger people in this field. So the formation, the education, as the previous speakers pointed, I think is very, very important also for islands where the population is very usually the younger will go to bigger cities for finding jobs, for finding opportunities, but they can find something also in their own territories where they grow up.
Okay, thank you, David. Maybe Eva, you can answer this question also on a example of this public cadastre. So you said that it will, the digitalization and let's say digital twin or this cadastre can help government to put the projects. But how are people involved in this? Are they also capable to see the new buildings, or what will be done, or can they maybe have a right to decide which materials will be used or something like this. Can you comment on that?
Right. So, well, it's three different things. The first thing is that the normal cadaster, like the building cadaster of City of Vienna, has been, well, for the whole of the Austria, has been highly digitized already. So as a citizen, you can have a look at a cadaster, you can see the ownerships, and also you can see the financial burdens on properties. And this is also a matter of transparency and of transparent citizen. Not all of the people are very happy that you are able to see who owns land and how much of loan is on your name on a building or on land. So just last week we saw a beautiful house at a hill, like great architecture, and we were interested in what is that, who owns it, and you can go in cadaster and have a look who is building owner and how much financial burden hypothec is on the building. And you can see the sum. You can see that the house is burdened by 1.8 million euros by person X and owned by person X, Y, Z, and you can see who that is and everything. So it's a transparent citizen, and this is the matter of how transparent do you want to have it, or would you like to be as a citizen? So it's a big, big question regarding that. So there is a lot of things and information available already. This is the first thing. The second thing is the material cadaster that should be created should be accessible to all of the citizens again, to be able to see what will be potentially coming in the future. And of course, the third thing is the participation. So for the future projects of the city, there is a participation approach where citizens in the design process, first of all, can participate and contribute what will be built, what types of energy could be available, if they want to make maybe energy community, energy sharing, what type of contract could they contribute to. So this also material participation or material passport participation could also be one of these future processes. But this process is not very fast one, and it takes really a long time. And considering financing, this is only possible for public projects. So private investors would not be able to finance such a long-lasting process. So this is one of the problems in such very participative projects, that they take very long time. So the financing for private investors is very difficult to take for such a long time.
But you were mentioning the new business models, so maybe they can come out from this old available data and maybe new things, as you said, energy communities, sharing, etc. So how I will ask all panelists, how do you see this development of new business models to the topics that you were mentioning, like in your case it's public cadastre and material cadastres, or in case of the Dr. Van Fan it's waste management, or in Dr. Wang. So Eva, can you maybe just provide a little bit more on these business models, or are you aware of it, or maybe?
Yeah, so smart contracts are already being implemented. So smart contracts are already taking place. So it's automated payments in the construction process. So you can track when the work has been conducted and finished, and the payment can be conducted in automated manner. And this has already been implemented. From our part, I'm quite skeptical about the implementation of blockchain technology, and we are still in process of, let's say, examining and evaluating it. I'm also not sure in terms of CO2 footprint and rebound effect in this sense. So this is still something that needs evaluation and needs really to be considered thoroughly, in my opinion. But maybe there are some people who are more optimistic about that.
Okay, and Dr. Van Van, can you comment a little bit on these business models, maybe if you are aware how they can be improved, or in waste management, or in other things that you were mentioning? Or
in the case of waste management, when we are talking about the business model, what I think that we should closely monitor is about the demand. The increasing demand is something that we need to always consider, and also the demand, and also maybe I will say we should focus on the demand side.
Okay, and if we are talking about this material cadastre, is it there some other maybe cadastres or on the waste in waste management that are taking data from different or even smaller amounts of the waste that are produced by households, etc.? Are you aware of this kind of things? Or for checking the really what is going out from the households or industry, because maybe some industry has aluminium and it's wasted, or etc. So.
Yep. I did some of the assessment, but the data that I mainly extracted is based on the Eurostat, and they have this kind of input-output data. And actually, recently, I have did one of the assessment is to assess, because as we know, the waste recycling rate is increasing. So I'm assessing whether the environmental footprint is reducing. But the trend is not what I expected. The footprint is actually still increasing. So this is why I'm emphasized on the waste generation part, because that is mainly the environmental footprints contributed from. Recycling, recovery is something good, but then there is also some burdening footprints in doing those processes.
Okay, thank you. And what about the, let's say, customers' participation or in this waste management, etc.? So, how is it increased or decreased? Can you comment on that? So.
You mean like the customer?
Yeah, let's say
those who
produce waste, or
if we are mentioning about the waste producer, which is all of us. So what important is, of course, like waste segregations, because by doing that only we can facilitate the waste recycling process, and not only the waste recycling and also the reuse, which is because when we're referring to the circular economy, recovery is something not enough. It's considered as quite a last resort in those hierarchies. So what we should focus is the reuse and reduce is what we should focus on, and so.
And what do you think if we can combine this material cadastre, or let's say, Eva, you said that it will be public, but also if we combine it, for example, with the, as you mentioned, the information on the buildings, what owners, how much they own to the banks or the different. If we can put in public level how much waste we are producing by the household or factory or etc., will it help, or how it, to make it more transparent? What do you think?
Yeah, first of all, in construction industry, architecture, engineering, construction, there is a new European regulation where you're not even allowed to produce so much waste. So this is the reduction part. So the future goes towards minimizing, really strictly minimizing production of waste. This is the first part. So you have to reduce. Of course, it would be nice to see how much you're still producing, maybe in terms of, kind of making it transparent, but in general there is a regulation where you have to reduce it. And the second thing is that through reuse and recycling you will still not have enough materials for new construction. In particular in European setting not so much, but where new megacities are being constructed, meaning Asia, etc., it is not enough. And here we have a huge problem. Again, limits of growth. How to limit that? Because in the future it will be not enough materials coming from urban mining strategy, reuse and recycle from the cities itself. Still primary resources will have to be consumed if we continue with growth of cities in the pace like it's currently the trend. So reduce, and once again reduce is the only recipe. And maybe, okay, through these digital platforms, you can make it, you can visualize it, but still you need a public policy mechanism, again, how to reduce this. And taxonomy is one of such mechanisms through a European Green Deal, for example. Or it's let's say, first step towards such mechanism.
Okay, yes, so we can agree maybe it can help to, if we make more transparent waste production, to also make it more efficient and reduce the consumption of these materials. Dr. Wang, what do you think about these topics? Because you are far away, but it's not maybe easy to ask questions or comment, but you are free to intervene whenever you feel to do. Okay, so.
Yeah, so I think the topic about the public accessibility to the data I mean, in the United States, we feel pretty hard to make, because we work with the individual buildings, so it's pretty hard to make the individual building or inside occupants data to be transparency to public. It's really hard. But we allow to put some non-identifiable data, so personally identifiable information. So for instance, we can put the information to public. We can put the information like, how about this parcel, this block? What's the general energy production, not energy consumption or waste the production? So how they have these situations, environmental impact. We can report those things, but we are still really strict on the size. So how many buildings that can be considered in one group, or so we still have some requirements to do that, to be the public transparency. And I also want to echo the point. I think Professor Alexandru Zidanzek, he mentioned that once about the peer pressure. I think in the United States, many cities, they are trying to, the governments, cities, they're trying to use like personalized message to remind each individual household, what is your percentage of energy consumption compared with the similar groups or similar regions. Not only the energy use, but also like the waste. But not exactly waste. Waste, we don't have an indicator to do that. Like we don't have a European indicator to minimize that kind of thing. But we have like a requirements or encouragement to do the recycle materials, like recycle bins. You have to pay something to get recycle bins. So we will give the personalized the information to let you know in the similar group, how many of them have this kind of recycle bins or recycle waste treatments, and what kind of percentage your house is at. So hopefully this kind of a percentage this kind of personalized information can encourage the energy saving and also environmental friendly behaviors. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for this intervention. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay, sure, please.
Thank you very much, Eva, and what you said resonates very well with the report actually called Weight of Cities. So that was mentioning, for example, how to lightweight the building or the resource use of cities or urban areas. So I was wondering, you shared the strategy of Vienna, the smart city, and its strategy to use digital tools to to complete the loop and improve the circular economy. So I was wondering, do you have any specific strategies for especially fast-growing urban areas to do lightweighting strategies and maybe combine those with what we heard from the plenary lectures, like combining it with district heating and cooling networks. So this combined strategy with resource efficiency, energy efficiency, renewable energy. So how do you see that in a broader perspective?
Yeah, this is really important because, of course, you can only achieve the smart city through integrated approach. And this is what we discussed today in a session. So basically, of course, you have to combine resources, lightweight construction, and of course, let's put it, the energy supply, for example, district heating, district cooling, that is very efficient in Vienna. However, of course, here we have a problem that lightweight construction is still connected to a number of problems in terms of fire protection, for example, in terms of acoustics, and in terms of thermal mass. So here you need really, really good simulation and prediction models, how to balance that in terms of achievement of optimum in terms of embodied energy and operational energy. And of course, you need adaptation of building codes and regulations that would allow you actually to use lightweight construction. And here we need really big changes that are not easy to implement, because of course nowadays, if you use lightweight construction for multi-story buildings, you will need to add so much more of additional mass for fire protection and acoustics that in the end it will be quite similar if you're using massive construction. So you need a lot of policy making changes. So you don't only need this coupling of resources and energy systems, but you also need policy changes, which are really not easy to get through with. So yeah, this is something that still needs to be considered, and currently it's a negotiation process. It's participation and negotiation, and for the future, maybe if some flagship projects are realized and also visualized through digital technologies, these changes are enabled to happen faster if you show best practices.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? Okay, if there are no more questions, I will ask our panelists now for the closing words. So maybe we touched a lot of things today here, and we pointed out many successful projects, and I think there are many alternatives to go to the smart cities and smart islands, but we will also need to integrate lots of things and find these things possible. So maybe, Alexander, would you like to give your final thoughts on this panel and all the things are what have been said here, just to wrap up and close with your side, and then I will ask for the others to make a closure sentence.
Thank you, Goran, first for a very nice organization of this very interesting panel discussion. First, I would like to say that there are many opportunities we have heard also tonight, many opportunities for the applications of modern technologies, of artificial intelligence algorithms, perhaps blockchain protocol, perhaps some other protocol. And I believe that all of these possibilities should be explored and allowed to be developed with the advance of cheap information communication technologies. Computer chips are getting cheaper and cheaper, so you can track practically things that we never even thought possible to be tracked, like waste, which has almost no value. However, you can track it more and more cheap every year. Which means that with all this great amount of data, big data, the smart sensors, and also the systems that we heard, there are lots of practical challenges where there is regulation that is not really smart, and this could be optimized somehow with the help of the artificial intelligence. And I believe that this is the way forward, and we need to be optimistic and implement the technologies that we have available in order to make a better final situation with this smart cities, smart villages, and smart islands, and smart settlements. Thank you. Thank you again for a very nice work.
Thank you, Alexander, for being with us, even if you are ill, and I hope you will recover soon. And we owe you a big dinner and tasty dinner in Dubrovnik for the next
Thank you,
conference.
Goran.
Okay, thank you. And now, Dr. Wang, can you make your final closure?
Yeah, great. Thanks for this opportunity to be in this panel. I also learned lots of information, a lot of knowledge here. I think from the building perspective, with the rapid sensing and computing technologies, smart building has a great potential to contribute to city energy efficiency and environmental impacts, to reduce environmental impacts, and also the indoor for occupants, the human comfort and the human health. So I think the building scale can contribute to the building scale, and the inside occupants that contribute to this topic. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Davide, can you say a few words for the closure of this panel?
Yes, thank you also from my side to this very interesting and stimulating discussion. Yes, I think the key aspects are the citizen involvement and their sensibilization, and to work at different scale. We have seen the building scale, the positive energy district, and then the smart island, the smart cities, and this for fighting the energy transition, joining also the AI, Internet of Things. We have seen digital twins also in Vienna, and also for fighting the energy poverty, that sometimes it's a very critical problem in today's society. Thanks again for joining this meeting.
Iva, would you like to give a final word? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation and also for presenting these various aspects of smart cities and smart islands, connecting the aspects of smart citizens, of smart energy and smart resources. I really strongly believe that technology has huge potential in helping us dealing with this problem of multiple perspectives. I think Neven Deutsch has shown today these various impacts, and one thing is good for reduction of CO2, but it's bad for biodiversity, etc. And we need to also the buildings. If you have lightweight construction, it's good for resources efficiency, but it's not maybe optimal for energy efficiency. And you need to balance all of these various and sometimes opposing issues. And I think these are really very, very complex models, and new technologies can help us deal with this complexity in terms of bringing informed decisions and decision-making processes. So I'm quite optimistic regarding that, despite all of the risks in terms of cybersecurity and maybe becoming a little bit less smart citizens in the end. But I think I still am quite optimistic, and I'm thinking that we will become also smarter.
Dr. Van Van, I will give you opportunity to give a final word and close this panel. So hopefully we can then continue discuss outside, okay, or tomorrow. Okay, yeah. So please make final word and the closing of this panel.
I will make a short one. So from my side, I think that if we can tackle the e-waste issues and also to reduce the unnecessary demands and also the consumptions, we could maximize the benefits of smart cities and also the smart islands. So, and also thanks Professor Goran for inviting me to this panel discussions. Yeah. Okay. This is what I would like to highlight.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thank you all. So now I'm inviting you to make some more comments and questions on presentations in our virtual conference in online, and see you tomorrow morning. It's another hard working day. So Thank you all for being with us, and see you tomorrow.
Recording stopped.
Well, obviously there is fixation on the so-called smart technologies, so they're the tools.
Yeah, they're tools.